Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What if I reverse the process all the way back to see what happened at the beginning of time itself?
At the beginning of time itself?
Yes. So the universe getting smaller and smaller, getting denser and denser, hotter and hotter as we...
You mean wind back the clock?
Yeah, exactly, wind back the clock.
Hello and welcome to the first Monday movie show of 2016. We're only 20 minutes late, but I would say that's a bit of a record for us, but no.
I have been, though, out seeing things today because I needed to see them for the show.
Yeah, still, excuses. It would have just been nice to actually start the show on time and then probably just go downhill from there, but I think that's just a lot to be expected, and I think people are used to us now being late. So we're kicking off 2016 in normal Monday movie show fashion, even though our end of year show, the last show that we did in 2015, we were actually on time.
Wow.
I know, wow indeed. So let's hope that 2016 is a big bumpy year of films, because nobody expected 2015 to be as good or as bad as it was. Just listen to the end of the year show to find out what we thought about 2015. You can find it on our stream, and it's on the website as well, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. But this week we're kicking off 2016 with a couple of movies that have got Oscar contention written all over them in the cinema section. They are
we have Eddie Redmayne, award winner from, as you heard that clip at the start of the show, from Theory of Everything, stars in The Danish Girl. And you have Jennifer Lawrence starring in the title character of Joy.
Yep, and on Blu-ray and DVD we're looking at these sort of smaller films.
We have Jesse Eisenberg in the kind of meta comedy action thriller thing that it is, American Ultra. We have a look at the Beach Boys in Love and Mercy. We have an Adam Sandler film to start off the year with The Cobbler. We have horror with the Vatican tapes, and we also have then a Nicolas Cage straight to video movie with The Runner.
Yep, and on top of that we have your TV movie of the week, the DVD Blu-ray top 10, the UK box office top 10. But seeing as you've got no movie news and I do, we'll go straight into some movie news with me.
Well, I have no movie news, but I did have a bit I was going to mention quickly, which is about that, because we did mention it last year, the whole thing of that Ryan Coogler had been connected with apparently directing Marvel's Black Panther film. It's apparently now been confirmed that he is going to direct it. So I mean, that's the guy who's directed the upcoming Rocky spin-off Creed, which comes out in a couple of weeks. That he's now going to be directing a Marvel film with the character that was sort of set up briefly in Age of Ultron from Wakanda, of the Black Panther.
Yeah, and that ties in perfectly with the first piece of news that I've got, is that Joss Whedon has confirmed that he will not be doing any more work for Marvel. The reason is that he felt burnt out after doing Age of Ultron, which there was predictions that Whedon was stepping away from Marvel. We thought that he might have been taking more of a production role on sort of like phase 3 of the Marvel series, but by the looks of things he's not even taking a production role on it. He's just up and left Marvel, which is, I think, is a good thing for him, because he is one of these creative directors who doesn't like to be stifled or doesn't like to be tied down to like said projects for too much time. So
I have a feeling though we'll probably see his name pop up somewhere in a role with the title something like creative consultant or something like that, something featuring the word consultant, because he has got a history with the comics. He did write and create some of them back in the day when, you know, the comics were all the stories. I mean, the stories that we're seeing brought to the screen now as part of Marvel's, and I think, I'm not sure if he did or not, but I think he had a hand in things to do with DC as well. Some of the stories that are being now adapted and coming to the screen, he was involved in creating them, so he's going to know them a lot better and be able to say, oh, well, there's this, and I think that they will reach out to him and maybe just give him a consulting gig, but they won't. I mean, they probably try and maybe push him to do more, but he'll say, no, don't want to do any more, I'll just consult. Yeah, he's gonna basically be doing like Tony Stark with the Avengers.
I really hope that he decides to do something a bit smaller, which he'll probably will. I don't think it's going to be on the small scale of like Much Ado About Nothing, but I really hope that he just maybe takes a little bit of time away from it and has a good think. And I really, really, really hope that he teams up with Drew Goddard again.
I've got fingers crossed that he'll do another Firefly film.
Maybe, but it would be nice if he attempted something new again. So the last time he did that was with
Dollhouse.
No, New Wise was Cabin in the Woods.
Oh.
And that's the last thing he attempted to do something new that was based on not original existing IP. So the Cabin in the Woods wasn't a comic book or anything like that. It was an original idea created with him and Drew Goddard. Because obviously Much Ado About Nothing is a Shakespeare play, and the Avengers is Marvel stuff. So
and this would be the Drew Goddard who went on to write the script for
The Martian.
Yeah.
So it would be awesome if both of them get back together again, because I think they work off each other fantastically. If you watch the behind the scenes features on the Cabin in the Woods, the way they actually interact with each other is just the way you want a director and a writer and a producer to interact with each other. They have proper ideas. They sit down and speak to each other and they go, yes, this is how it should be, but why don't we try it in this way first? So they work together really well. It would be nice to see them back together again.
Mm-hmm.
Other news, Disney CEO and chairman Bob Iger has confirmed that a 5th Indiana Jones film is going to happen. However, it's unknown if Harrison Ford will be playing Indiana Jones himself.
Well, I mean, we've seen him come back for playing Han Solo in Star Wars, so never say never.
Indiana Jones is a much more physical role than what he had to do with Han Solo in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have him in the film and just have him do like Star Wars and not actually have him have to do a lot more physical things, you know.
Yeah, well, if you look at Indiana Jones anyway, he would have to be the lead character. Whereas in Star Wars, it was more of the new generation of characters that was coming into it. It was just, the older characters were there for nostalgic feeling. Whereas it was all about introduction to some new characters. Whereas with Indiana Jones, it has to be an established character, and so it would have been titled Indiana Jones.
Well, there is that, but remember originally Raiders of the Lost Ark was just Raiders of the Lost Ark, not Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But it still featured Indiana Jones as the lead character, and so there's obviously murmurings and mutterings that they're going to go for a more younger one. Shia LaBeouf was supposed to be the one to be groomed for that role. However, he made a pig's ear of his role in Crystal Skull. But that wasn't the worst thing.
It wasn't entirely his fault, admittedly.
But he will have no chance now, and so there are numerous actors out there who could maybe take the whip from Indiana Jones, and they could go down the young Indiana Jones route. It's the only way you can actually forward the series as well.
Or do a reboot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that they would do.
Yeah, Disney have seen how well Star Wars has done, so I wouldn't put it past them. A couple of small pieces of news before we have a look at a few films that are coming out this year. Jet Li and Tony Jaa have joined Vin Diesel in XXX3 or XXX3.
Yeah, that title just doesn't work for it, does it?
No, so they've upped the cast. They've upped the martial arts cast, which is an indication that it is not going anywhere near the second XXX film, which is awful. And the only other piece of news that I've got, and it's a surprising piece of news considering how long they've actually had it, but Dimension Films have finally lost the rights to the Halloween series. They were planning on a new film coming out this year, directed by Marcus Dunstan, who did the Collector films, and he also worked on the Saw franchise as well, and did Feasts and Piranha. However, because it's taken so long, that now Dimension have lost the rights to the Halloween series after 20 years. And so it goes back to Miramax, who now Miramax are going to different studios to try and sell Michael Myers, and the rumour is Warner Brothers are the head, who lead ones who are looking to capture Michael Myers, and if that's the case, it will make horror fans salivate, because Michael Myers can then appear in a movie with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, because Warner Brothers holds the rights to A Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th series.
Sorry, having yawn.
How's that for complex? But still, the ultimate mashup. Because I think it worked really well with Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. In Freddy vs. Jason, I really like that film from Ronnie Yu, and Ronnie Yu's gone back to the Chucky series, and so it'd be nice if they just get Ronnie Yu and go, you know what, you did really well with Freddy vs. Jason, why don't you just bring that to the table with Freddy vs. Jason versus Michael Myers? Just have a big massive fisticuffs, and nobody wins, nobody loses. That's what happened. Spoilers. Films coming out this year now. My intention was to write down just a couple, and pick a few, but I think I might have went a bit too over the top, considering that it's more of an encyclopedic list.
Can I tell you one that I don't know if you've got it on your list or not, but I'm kind of looking forward to just seeing how bad it is and not seeing it at all, and it's a remake.
Okay, well, we might get to it.
Right.
But next week we're reviewing The Hateful Eight, so that's one to look out for, and Creed and Room the week after that as well on the 15th. Then fast forward into February, you've got Goosebumps. That's it on February the 5th. We finally get it over here after it was released over in America on Halloween.
And on the same day, released on February 5th, is Trumbo, which is the movie which is about the blacklist in America.
Yeah. Week after that, you've got Deadpool.
Yeah.
Out on Monday, the Wednesday, February the 10th.
Which I am really looking forward to now after that last trailer on Christmas Day.
Yeah. However, 2 days later, so released that week. Normally, with a big movie, you would not get other big movies released alongside it.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got Point Break, which critics absolutely slammed in the US.
That's the one I am really curious to see just how badly they have done that.
Yeah, they've absolutely slammed
I love the original.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies
and
Zoolander 2 are released all on the same day.
And Concussion.
So, yep, that's the new
Will Smith one. Yeah, there's a lot coming out that weekend, and I mean there's I think there's a kids film called Gem and the Holograms too, which is that not a spin-off from a kids series or something?
Yeah, that's
so
that was the biggest flop in the US.
Yeah.
In 2015.
But obviously there's a kids film that weekend, and also I'm just looking at the list of things now because I have the entire list of things coming out that day. Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Chip.
I chose to forget that.
Yeah, but it means that those like 7 films coming out that weekend, 2 of them kids films, and all the other ones as well, and that's a crazy weekend.
The week after that, it settles down, and there's a film coming out when it's been getting lots of interest called Bone Tomahawk, and so I'll just leave that one there. It might be one that slips under people's radars, but it'll catch people's attention.
Oddly enough, a western starring Kurt Russell, who is in.
Yeah, it's a western horror actually.
Yeah, but who's Kurt Russell in a western a month after Hateful Eight's come out? Yeah.
Early indications from me anyway, because I've actually seen Bone Tomahawk. It's an interesting film.
Okay.
Released in March. London Has Fallen is out on 4th of March. Alongside a movie that I implore any horror fan to see is Goodnight Mommy. It's a very weird, dark, twisted horror film that. Released the week after that, you've got an animated film that I cannot wait to see, Anna Melissa, which has been getting a lot of interest, and animation is my thing, so I can't wait to see that. Alongside Divergent Series Alliant and Kung Fu Panda 3 are all released on the same day, on March the 11th.
And note that Divergent Series Allegiant is even doesn't say part 1 or part 2, but is it not supposed to be a 2-part film again, like they did with Hunger Games?
No.
Okay, I thought it was. I thought I saw something about
that. Released a week after is Ben Wheatley's new film High Rise on March the 18th, which I'm eager to see. And then released after that on the 25th is Batman vs Superman and The Green Inferno, which is Eli Roth's latest cannibal horror movie, and Disney's latest film, Zootropolis. So they're all released on the same day. Then fast forward into April, you've got The Jungle Book, which actually looks pretty interesting.
I will reserve judgment.
You've got The Huntsman, which is the spin-off from the Snow White and the Huntsman series, The Huntsman Winter War, which is out on the 22nd of April. And then the week after that, Captain America Civil War. It's on the 29th of April. Into May, you've got Bad Neighbours 2 on the 6th of May. X-Men Apocalypse on the 19th of May. And Alice Through the Looking Glass on the 27th of May. And one movie which I think you might be interested to see, there is a prequel to, remember that horrible animated movie based on Top Cat?
What, you mean Top Cat?
Yeah, there is another one coming out, and it's a prequel. Top Cat Begins.
Okay, I am not seeing that.
It's out on the same day as Alice Through the Looking Glass. And on the 3rd of June, you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 movie and Warcraft released on the same day.
Yeah.
Week after that, you've got Now You See Me 2.
A lot of CGI those weeks.
Conjuring 2 is out on the 17th of June. And on the 24th of June, you've got The Secret Life of Pets from the people who made the Minions movie and Despicable Me. And also Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah, which you gotta admit, the trailer for that did look good.
Yeah, it did.
It did whet your appetite.
Yeah, stupid, over the top, absolutely over the top CGI explosions and stuff. But what do you expect from Roland Emmerich? Into July, on the 15th, you've got Ghostbusters and the Ice Age Collision Course released on the same day. And then the week after that, you've got BFG and Star Trek Beyond released on the same day. And Finding Dory is out on the 29th. And in the bottom end of the year, this is where things become a bit more sketchy because there's still movies that need to be pushed into dates and things like that. For example,
excuse me,
the Gambit movie has been moved out of its date now and being pushed back into 2017.
Yeah, because they haven't even got anyone to play it yet.
It's still Channing Tatum by the looks of things.
Well, it's supposed to be that he isn't, but he is, but he isn't.
In August, you've got Suicide Squad on the 5th and the remake of Pete's Dragon on the 12th of August. Into October, because I completely skipped over September because there's nothing released in September of any decent note. Jack Reacher 2 is out on the 21st, sorry, alongside the movie that I'm eager to see, A Monster's Call.
I'm just looking here though, do you realise they have got the remake of The Magnificent Seven by Anton Fuqua coming out in September?
Yes. But A Monster's Call is the one that I've underlined as the one I'm waiting for this year. Juan Antonio Bayon's new film. Out on the 28th, you've got Doctor Strange. Perfect time for Halloween, that. On the 18th of November, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And then in December, you've got Star Wars Rogue One on the 16th of December and Assassin's Creed on the 26th of December.
Did you say Jack Reacher?
Yes, Jack Reacher.
Yeah, never go back. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because I do like the first Jack Reacher. I really do like it. I think it's a very underrated film, and I do love Edward Zwick, who's directing this one.
Yeah, so that's a lot of films there on that list. But like I said, a lot can change. There are movies that might just jump out of nowhere, which people didn't expect. There are films that might actually get brought forward. It's just the back end of the year. You know, it's the time when we're not sure what's going to be out because there'll be movies might be brought forward. For example, there's a chance the Resident Evil film might be brought forward into October, which is my prediction because it already finished film shooting about a month and a half ago. So they just need to stitch together the film and add the CGI and stuff like that. And so its release date is January next year. So that might be brought forward. But there are other films anyway. Now, instead of going into the UK box office top 10, which we normally do, because there's no UK chart as of yet, new one's out on Wednesday, find out exactly how if A Force Awakens, the Star Wars movie, has completely toppled Spectre, and by the looks of things, it will. We're going to take a look at the top 10 films of 2015 in total in the UK, and so at number 10 is Home.
Yeah, which I still can't believe that it did as well as it did, because I do think it's a really weak animation film. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was just very, very, well, boring and uninteresting. I just didn't like it as much as everyone else apparently has.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I stuck up for the film. I was on its side a little bit. I thought the animation was actually really well done. The story is very simple. But after about 25 minutes, I got used to the characters, and I went on the ride. Number 9 is The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because it is half a film. It's not the whole thing, because Mockingjay should have really been, as we keep saying this, it should have been a 3-hour film and just been all condensed slightly into one film. The problem with it is, on its own, Mockingjay Part 2, while on its own is a weak film, if you pair the two together, it's actually weaker. So it's actually sort of weakened because of the fact that Part 1 is kind of a whole sort of setup, and it's a weird thing where you have, it's kind of a reverse thing, that on its own it's better than if it's paired, because if it's paired, Part 1 works out better. It's a weird thing. It's a, I wouldn't say satisfying conclusion to the story, but it kind of goes on for far too long that by the end of it you just go, hurry up and finish already.
Well, somewhere in those myriad of endings there is an end of the film, a proper end to the film. At number 8, a movie that a lot of people completely forgot was actually released in 2015, is 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah,
which goes to show that it isn't as terrible as people are saying or said at the time, because if it was as terrible as people said, and everyone thought it was as terrible as they said at the time, they would have remembered it more for being so terrible. It's not that terrible, it's forgettable. Which in its own is its own sort of, your own sort of bad thing. I said at the time, as I say, I didn't think it was a terrible film. I thought it wasn't a great film, but it definitely has problems with dialogue and with the writing and with the whole thing altogether. I thought they were trying to do something different with it. Sam Taylor Johnson was trying to do something fairly decent with it and different with it, and didn't work. It just didn't she didn't pull it off. But it was, a nice try, and you can see it was trying to do something different, just couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, the only problem is you had that annoying person nipping at your heels in the form of E.L. James, a writer who thinks that she can write, yet a 5-year-old who is just learning to write for the first time can actually create a more coherent story than she can. And so when you've got her meddling around with it, no wonder the movie turns out to be so cheesily bad, with dialogue so ripe that it makes people bang their heads off the wall. And what do you expect, because the books aren't any better. At number 7, the first animated film in the top 10 is Inside Out.
Yeah, I mean, we loved it. It is Pixar back to their imaginative and magical and heartfelt best, and it's just a great return to form for them. And from what I hear from you, I still haven't seen it. From what I hear though, a return to form that they don't manage to stay with for the friendly dinosaur, the good dinosaur. Yeah, it sounds as though they don't manage to keep with it.
Well, we'll see what you think of the Good Dinosaur, because we're only getting one Pixar film this year, and that's Finding Dory. So you'll get to watch 2 Pixar films this year then. At number 6 is Furious 7.
Which I
I
enjoyed it. I mean, it's not the best in the franchise. It is crazy over the top action, and it's a film that does hold a place sort of in my heart because of the fact of the way it dealt with Paul Walker's death and his character's sort of departure from the franchise. And I have to admit, it was a film that I was impressed they managed to pull it off, that it was this entertaining and this good a film from what is essentially a train wreck because of the events that happened.
Yeah, at number 5 is Minions.
This I'm surprised at. I actually thought Inside Out would have taken more than Minions. I'm genuinely surprised that this happened. I mean, not that I don't think Minions is fun and it's good, it's brilliant, but it's the lesser of the 2 films. Inside Out is definitely the better of the 2 films. Minions is very much just simple humour. So I mean, I guess maybe there's the whole thing of Minions. You don't have to be a certain age. You can probably take kids younger to see it and they'll sit there and laugh at it, because it's kind of, it is the whole thing of slapstick humour. You don't have to sort of understand it to enjoy it and laugh with it.
Yeah, the thing is though, the reason why I think Minions has done better than Inside Out is because Inside Out is a new IP, whereas Minions is already established. People know what the Minions are like. People know what to expect, and so they went to it, and they sort of knew what kind of film they were going to get.
That's true.
Whereas with Inside Out, it's something that's different, something that's new, and so obviously they're not going to have the attachment there. So you might get more wary people.
It's true, but the word of mouth on Inside Out was a lot stronger than word of mouth on Minions.
Well, there was pretty much no word of mouth on Minions because there didn't need to be word of mouth on Minions. Number 4 is too high in my opinion. Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I just recently watched it again the other night. I watched this and Ant-Man back to back. I have to say, Ant-Man I enjoyed a lot more. Avengers: Age of Ultron, this is the thing. I think this is people's expectations have outdone them. Admittedly, Joss Whedon has struggled with it, and there's a couple of missteps in the film, but it is just more of the same. It doesn't have the whole thing of it's the Avengers all coming together. Look at that, it's amazing. It's the Avengers are back. We've seen them all come together. We've seen that it's not an amazing thing for them to come together. It happened in the last film. It's just they're back again, and it's just more of the same. I don't have a problem with that. I enjoy it that much.
At number 3 is Jurassic World,
which is, it's, for me, it's better than the last one. It is a fun, crazy ride that you get on that it just starts and doesn't stop right to the end. I don't think it's especially brilliant. I think it's very much a film that it's a film that is, let's put it this way, it's very heavily relying on the special effects to tell the story than having its own story and telling it. Which a lot of the time means that it will be a terrible film, and it's not a terrible film. It manages to work. Colin Trevorrow makes the effects work to tell the story successfully, but this is kind of going back to the whole thing of the George Lucas film of schoolmaking and relying on your special effects to tell the story. Whereas, as much as it kind of is about the whole thing of engineering more to make the whole thing entertaining, I think it struggles with that. I think it could actually have been a much better film if they had, taken more care with the story.
Yeah, number 2, after very little time, is Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yeah, which is, it is a great return to form for Star Wars. The magic is back. The feel of the original series as opposed to the feel of the prequels by George Lucas, which were complete and utter messes and just blue screen after blue screen shots. This has actually got a feel to it, and it's palpable. You can feel it as you're watching it. You can almost smell it in the air of just you can feel the Force with watching it. It's true though. You have that magic that's back with the first film. It's the magic of the whole thing of you have the people. There are people who see this who didn't see the original Star Wars when they were a kid, and they go, it doesn't make sense. Why is this so amazing? And they'll go and see this, and there'll be moments in it that they'll be like, wow, and they'll go, okay, maybe that's why it's amazing. They may not go, wow, it is amazing, but they'll go, okay, I understand it now. And that's what it does. And people are still flocking to see it. I was in a cinema today and I saw a couple of films. I didn't go to see this again. I've seen this twice. I would like to go and see it again. I will probably. But the cinema, obviously it's a bank holiday Monday, but the cinema was packed with families and kids. And I guarantee a lot of them were going to see this again.
A couple of things. Bank holiday Monday for Scotland, not for the rest of the UK. So
but the cinema that I went to was in Scotland, so...
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been the case here. But the second thing, at least it didn't make me walk out the cinema going, yep, that was as terrible as I thought it would be. I just walked out the cinema and go, yeah, that was actually alright.
Yeah.
Better than I thought. It was better than I thought it would be, but...
That's high praise from you.
Yeah, but I am so sick of seeing Star Wars posts left, right and centre. The amount that geeks and fans and nerds and all that stuff has picked apart that film. They've picked apart it so much with so many different ideas and theories and all that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking, come on, it's a movie, for God's sake. You don't have to scrupulate it bit by bit. I wouldn't have been surprised if you went to see it at a viewing and you've got people up at the screen with magnifying glasses going, yep, Luke Skywalker's actually earlier on in the film. He's in that little bit. Right beside Yoda, you can just see Yoda peeking his head up right in the bottom corner there. And so it's just ridiculous the amount of posts I've seen over Facebook and Twitter. And the worst thing is, it's not going to slow down, because Rogue One's out this year, And next year we've got another Star Wars movie in Episode 8, and then we've got another Star Wars movie and another Star Wars movie, and oh god!
Are you finished?
Number 1, Spectre.
Yeah, which I have to say I was disappointed with. I think that it suffers from the fact of that with Skyfall they did a great thing where they made it a more personal Bond, and then they decided, we've made it more personal to Bond now, the story's got a building, we need to keep it connected to Bond, and they didn't need to. They should have just gone back to the kind of the formula. Fair enough, there are references that they could have kept into Skyfall, and that's fine. They didn't have to go along the route that they did in the film, which for me just made it honestly a waste and a bore. For some of the sort of half hour towards the end, I just was going, come on, when's this going to finish? It needs to end soon. It was too long by a mile, and Daniel Craig looked bored as I was watching it throughout parts of it.
Yeah, he's named Bland, James Bland. That's all I can see about.
That's not bad, actually.
Yeah, it's boring. On to new releases, and so I've got the prestige of reviewing the first film of 2016 for us, and it's a movie that's getting Oscar buzz in the form of The Danish Girl, directed by Tom Hooper, who did Les Miserables, and it's got, I think Eddie Redmayne is going to be in a film every single year around about this time, just to try and get him another Oscar.
Should we see if he's going to be another film though this year that will try and ruin those chances of him getting an Oscar? Like Jupiter Ascending, yeah.
It was a good job for him that Jupiter Ascending came just after the Oscars, so it was slightly helpful in that front, and I don't think it got.
Do you think that's why they moved it back? They moved it back 6 months because
with the Razzies that much, so it didn't harm that badly. However,
it wasn't that bad a film actually. It wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad a film.
The thing is, though, people think that the Razzies can harm your chances of winning an Oscar when that's not the case. You look at Sandra Bullock. She won a Razzie and an Oscar in the same year. So Halle Berry has done exactly the same. She won a Razzie for Catwoman and she won an Oscar.
Oh, Catwoman is such an awful film.
So it can happen, yeah. It can happen, but it didn't happen with Eddie Redmayne. And so in this year, he's got a lot of interest in him because the fact that he plays both male and female. And as a matter of fact, he plays the first ever male to get an operation to turn himself into a female. And so the basic story is he's a Danish artist, Einar Wegner or something like that anyway, but his first name is Einar and he's only ever known as Einar throughout the film. He lives with his wife, who's played by Elisa Vikander, who plays Gerda, so very artist kind of names. And at first they live a very normal, typical life of artists. Both of them are artists, both of them having trouble in getting their work noticed. One day when Gerda comes back after being refused for art to be shown at a gallery, she needs some help from Einar to just sit there with a dress on him so she can just paint. And so she does that, but something clicks in Einar. He starts to get a bit too attached to the dress, starts comforting the fabric, and gets a bit more into it. And this starts the ball rolling for Einar to transform into his female counterpart, Lily, and the first time he does that is in this clip.
My darling! Hola. Let me introduce. It's Lily. That's right. Einar's cousin from Violet.
My dear. Oh, exquisite. In, let's go in. Come on.
Don't leave me.
No, never.
While at that party or soiree where they're at, something clicks inside of him and pushes him more towards the outcome of the film, the way the film pans out. Now, the thing with The Danish Girl is it's getting a lot of praise for both Tom Hooper and the actors in the form of Eddie Redmayne and Alicia Vikander. Now, 2/3 of that deserves the praise. That is Eddie Redmayne and Alicia Vikander. Tom Hooper, in a way, sort of doesn't but does. He makes the film look like a painting, which sort of like matches both of the characters. but he seems to concentrate more on the style of the film itself rather than the content of the film, because without the superb performances by Eddie Redmayne and Alicia Vikander, the film itself would be empty. And that's because the supporting casts in the form of people like Amber Heard, Ben Whishaw, Matthias Schoenaerts have very little to do. Amber Heard, as you heard in that clip there, she's in the film about 2 or 3 scenes, and that's about it. Matthias Schoenaerts is introduced into the film as a love interest for Gerda when she realizes that she has lost her husband to this Lily character, and so she needs some kind of just somebody there for her, and his character is just thrown to the wayside. Exactly the same with Ben Wishaw's character. He only crops up every now and again for a love interest of Lily's, but that's about it. So the film itself, yes, it concentrates all on Eddie Redmayne's and Alicia Vikander's character, which it should do, because it's all about Redmayne's character. It's all about going from being a male to a female, realizing that you're in the wrong body. But it still would have helped the movie if the supporting cast was stronger than what it is. It looks really nice. Musical tones works really well. It's got a 1920s feel to it. If you look at the apartments that both of them live in, it's got this sparse kind of artistic kind of look to it. The floorboards are all painted. The walls have got very little on it. They do not display their art. Their art is meant for galleries. And so it has the look and the style and the feel of a 1920s film. And with the acting to boot, it has some really good characters. It's just not this superb film that a lot of critics are making it out to be. And it is the start of those alarm bells ringing again. Like with every Oscar buzz movie, you think to yourself, does it really deserve it? Are they just piling it on because they need to pick a few films to do that with? And it is starting to become the annoyance now with the Oscars that just stop going after drama after drama after drama after this hard-hitting drama, and actually just grow some testicles and try something different for a change. And it might actually introduce something more braver than what is actually turned out with the Danish Girl. And that, again, I think out of everything, that is my ultimate flaw with the movie. It's not brave enough. It's not brave enough at all. Considering it's a 15, it could have pushed itself more forward. So with the weak supporting cast and the non-brevity with the movie, it harms the film, and it stops it from being this absolutely superb movie that it looks to be.
Okay, interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I have apprehensions about it because of the fact of having seen his last 2 films, having seen Les Mis and the King's Speech, yeah. It's looking at this, you can see it, and you can see it looks like a Tom Hooper film. But the thing I'm wondering about is because it's the character. I don't know if that's the kind of thing, because it just doesn't. From the trailers and everything, it looks like it's something that it wants to be a Tom Hooper film, but it's not.
No, from the trailer, it's definitely one of those movies which definitely screams, "Give me awards." It is one of those. The way the trailer is cut together, it's the perfect play reel to give to a judging panel on something like the Oscars or the Golden Globes to see Give Me Awards. You don't have to watch the movie, just watch this trailer. This will give you the tone and the feel of exactly what it should be like. And I hate films which manipulate people like that to make them feel like that.
Preachy, yeah.
Yeah, it's really helpful that you've got some very strong performance, especially Alicia Vikander. It all seems to be pushed on Eddie Redmayne, but I hope that Alicia Vikander is the one who gets the most praise from it. I really do hope that she gets a Best Actress nomination, because she is fantastic in the film. She outdoes Eddie Redmayne in most of the scenes that they're both in together. It's just when his character is allowed to be on its own. I know it's horrible to actually see an it, considering it's male going into a female, but then it's probably the best way to do it without being gender specific. But when the character is on its own, then that's when Eddie Redmayne shines. But when they're together, that's when Alicia Vikander shines.
Okay, moving on to Joy then, which is the latest from David O. Russell. It stars Jennifer Lawrence as the title character, Joy, who in the sort of 70s is a woman who, as we're introduced to her now, introduced to her very out of sequence, because it's the thing that David O. Russell likes to do. His films aren't exactly kind of chronological in order. We have sequences that start off with Joy, present day to the character. We have sequences that start off with her introduced as a child. And it's all done with this voiceover of her grandmother, Mimi, played by Diane Ladd, who is there sort of doing the sort of the voiceover explaining, while at the same time it's a movie that's cutting into and out of these melodrama soaps that are being played on television, much to the kind of the television addiction of her mother, Terry, played by Virginia Madsen. It's all centered around this family, but mostly in particular Joy, who is this girl, this woman who's kind of holding her very, very disjointed and dysfunctional family together. You have her ex-husband, who now lives in the basement of the house, played by Edgar Ramirez. You have her father, who is separated from the mother, who has been off sort of living his life with another woman who has had enough of him and sends him back there, so he's now thrown into the mix as well. Everything is all sort of there and coming to a head when Joy ends up, after struggling and falling asleep on the bed one night, waking up with this idea of a mop that she is coming up with design with after having difficulty cleaning up and cutting her hands on some broken glass. It comes to this whole thing of that she's designing this mop. It is a revolutionary design thing of a mop that is self sort of squidgying. You don't have to get your hands dirty and everything and wet and all that kind of thing. And obviously sets out to try and see if she can get funding for this, in particular from her father's latest girlfriend, played by Isabella Rossellini, who has sort of the money and the funds to be able to do this, but kind of has these questions and conditions that she wants to ask Joy before deciding to go ahead with it.
You are in a room, and there is a gun on the table. And the only other person in the room is an adversary in commerce. Only one of you can prevail. Yet, you have protected your business and Maurice's money. Do you pick up the gun, Joy?
That's a very strange question.
There is nothing strange about this question at all. This is money. Do you pick up the gun?
I pick up the gun.
Good. I'm going to remember that you said that when I speak to my lawyer.
So the thing with this is, there is, all the way through it, there is this kind of, and the best way I can describe it is kind of a numbing boredom that sits in place throughout this film. At no point does it get really exciting. There's no point. I mean, the family melodrama and the chaos of it, and some of the little bits of humour, the bickering, infighting that goes on, is enough to get the film along as you're watching it, and you do start to get invested with it. The thing with me is that I was watching it, and there's a point where about halfway through it, it goes to the whole thing of then after Joy is trying to sell it, her ex-husband puts her in contact with someone, an old friend of his, and they put her in touch with the head of at the time, because this is obviously in the 70s and 80s, a revolutionary new TV shopping network with QVC. And she goes there, sets it up with him, and the head of the station, played by Bradley Cooper, is there, and he's showing her the works of the whole thing of the stage they've got, and the way they set up the cameras, and the way they set up the things, and the way that they focus the camera on, it's about the hands. He's talking about the whole thing of you telling people something. He's like, you tell people something once, they don't hear you. You tell people something 4 times, they don't hear you. You tell them the 9th time, by that time it starts getting through to them. And that whole thing of the salesman, the push and sell, that's when it started to actually get interesting. It started to get interesting to the point of that I started thinking, I don't care about Joy. I don't really care about Joy. I want to see this character and the whole thing of the QVC and the whole selling. I want to see the 30 years, 40 years of QVC that have been, and how that happened, and the whole thing over the years of that happening. So I'm sure that would have made in those sort of 10-15 minutes of the film there that focused on that. There was this much more buzzing energy to it that I'm sure would have made for a much more entertaining and engrossing and interesting film to look at and to see than what Joy ultimately becomes. And the thing is, even with Joy, then after that it does go downhill and sort of the buzzing. There's a little bit where it kind of starts to pick up a bit towards the end to do with the character of Joy, because she goes through a transition from being one type of person to another type of person. But it's a film that it feels very much that it's, as David O. Russell does with some of his previous films, struggle with developing the characters, and it has scenes in it which are perfectly fine, but in the grander scale should have just been taken out and left, because it's a 2 hour and a bit film and didn't need to be that long. It should have been a lot more streamlined. It should have been just had a bit more oomph to some of the scenes, because it really just, it feels very blasé as you're going through it, except for this moment, as I say, when it goes to the shopping channel thing and then it explodes on the screen, and you have this sequence where you have Bradley Cooper behind the scenes of the camera saying, oh, there's this, do this, and he's telling the cameraman, look, focus on this, and that's when it starts to come alive. And then after that I just felt, slump, and I sat there in my chair and I kind of thought, oh well, we've got more of Joy for the rest of the film, and it doesn't hold itself to that same level as it does for those 15 minutes in the middle. Not to say that it is a bad film, because it's not a bad film, but it's just that level of, and there is an intentional level of melodrama thrown into the film, but it's the rest of the film that has an unintentional level of melodrama that you kind of sit there and just go, I don't care about this. It's ridiculous. It's getting to the point of, stop it and move on.
Yeah, the thing with the film is Jennifer Lawrence needs a bit of praise, because she's handling a character which
very one-dimensional.
Anybody else's shoes would have instantly walked out of the family that she's with, because her family are destructive. Everybody, every single member, even including her daughter, is a very destructive family. They're not there to think about Joy, who is there to pretty much install some joy into the family. They're there to bring her down, to tear her down no matter what. And when she comes up with the idea of the mob, they're never supportive of her. They're always go, oh, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to succeed. And so the film itself just feels like that. It feels like you're just getting knocked down for trying to watch it. It's like David O. Russell has created a movie that gives you a slap for every single time that you start enjoying something in the movie. There's to say it, no, you're not allowed to. Bad dog. You're a bad dog. And it's just weird, because a movie should never make you feel like that. You should feel sympathy for the character rather than just you feeling for the character. And just the movie itself has this, it feels more like the melodrama that he creates inside the movie than the film intends to be.
Yeah.
So the way the melodrama is played out, it's very much like the Falcon Crests and stuff like that was on American television in the 70s and 80s. The acting was so cheesy that you need a chainsaw to cut it with, because it's that thick with cheese. And so that's the way the movie seems to play out. It plays out like its TV counterpart, like it belongs in the 1970s as a TV series, not as a film. And it feels like Russell has taken too many happy pills, or he's come up with the idea while sitting in the dentist chair getting ready to get a fill-in, and then all of a sudden they put the gas mask on him and he's thinking really happy melodramatic thoughts. He's like bouncing around on a piano like a little pixie fairy. So the movie, it's annoying, because you can see sparks in there of some interest. It's just they never seem to resurface because David O. Russell doesn't want you to find them.
Yep, I agree. I mean, we're kind of on similar opinions here with this. It's not a bad film, but it's just it slumps around for the majority of its time, and for that it should really be marked down incredibly.
Yeah, so that's it for the cinema section of this week's show. We'll be back in a moment with it's a smaller Blu-ray DVD section because there aren't very many big films out this week.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And we're back with this week's DVD and Blu-ray releases in the home release section, which we'll go through as usual the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, the first of 2016. Will there be many differences? Will there be new entries? We'll see in a minute. After which then we'll go on to the usual cacophony of new releases, including these films.
Somebody got word of the day toilet paper for Christmas, didn't he?
It was a towel.
Word of the day towel.
Yeah.
How many towels do you go through then, if that's the case?
A day.
365 towels. This year, 366, I hope. Unless you're going to actually use both sides of one towel. But movie-wise, we've got Jesse Eisenberg teaming up with Kristen Stewart in over-the-top action movie American Ultra. Then we calm things down a little bit with Love and Mercy, based on the Beach Boys. And then anger might prevail with The Cobbler. I might have to shut up. Horror movie, The Vatican tapes, and we'll round things off with The Runner, because that's exactly what I will be doing.
What, running?
Yeah, away from the microphone, just in case, because I might have to release the inner Cobbler demon.
Okay. Before that though, as usual, DVD and Blu-ray top 10. Starting at number 10, we'll skip over quickly with Downton Abbey, the finale.
Do you believe that will be the finale though?
I don't care, because I didn't watch it. I don't watch the show, to be honest.
I think it's going to be a movie, so it'll never be a finale.
We'll have to review that probably. American Sniper jumping up the chart to number 9.
My guess is it was bought for a lot of fathers over Christmas, so that's the reason why it's in the top 10 there. Or they found it really cheap in a 3-letter store, which they'll probably give it away for like $2.99 when you buy any other product.
Possibly.
It's fine. It's got one good, really good half, and then it's just hampered down with a really bad half.
Number 8 is Jurassic World,
which we'll fast forward through because we've already gone over Jurassic World.
Yeah, number 7 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the region of around about 18th.
It was actually 19th in the UK top 10 of the year, annoyingly beaten out slightly by £100,000 or so at the box office by Pitch Perfect 2, which came out the same weekend. So the two of them, same weekend, both sort of around the same takings. Pitch Perfect 2 slightly beat it, which is really annoying.
Yeah, but I just love looking over the list itself, the 102 films there, and there's some movies which should have done much better than they did. For example, The Gift, 95th, but I'm glad it beat Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. So that says enough. But yeah, Mad Max Fury Road, I rewatched it over Christmas, and I still love that film.
Number 6 is Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Again, it's another one of those movies where it's on offer for like £5 now. It definitely deserves some of the praise because it is an entertaining movie. Good way to start off a new franchise.
Marvel movies, moving slightly up the chart from 7 last time to 5 is Ant-Man.
Yeah, it's fine. That's the best you're going to get out.
The best thing I'm going to get out of you is you can at least admit it's better than Age of Ultron, because you think that.
Yes, it definitely is better than Age of Ultron. Just because I think Michael Pena helps with Ant-Man, because I didn't find him annoying. I did find him sort of like quirky and charming.
He is very funny.
Remarks in the film, and so yeah, it is better because of that, because the humour is not forced.
Yep. Number 4 is Inside Out,
which we've gone over again in the top 10 films of the year. It's a fantastic animated film.
Yep.
Only beaten out for me by Song of the Sea, which I still implore people to go and watch.
A new entry at number 3 for Rise of the Foot Soldier Part 2.
Yeah, go onto Twitter, follow From Page to Screen. He rants on about these kind of movies constantly. If that annoys you, then unfollow him quickly. If that doesn't annoy you, then you'll enjoy what he rants on about. Then you'll probably unfollow him because you'll be sick of him. No offense, Stuart. And I'm probably never allowed back on any of his shows ever again.
Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation is at number 2.
Yeah, It has a really good opening sequence, and then after that, it just bored me. I watched the film twice, and I just don't know why I decided to watch it for the second time, to be honest.
Well, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not as good as Ghost Protocol, which is the best of the franchise, but it is a worthy follow-up to that. Quite not the same words could be said about the number one film, though, I think. New entry for Hitman Agent 47.
I don't know why they thought Rupert Friend was a good idea to play a hitman, especially considering that they gave him hair.
That's your one hang-up on the film.
Yeah, but considering that the character itself, from every single game that he's been in, and even including the Timothy Oliphant film in 2008, I think around about that time anyway, he was bald. He didn't have hair. Yet they thought it was a brilliant idea to give him hair. and then give him just absurd things to do. Considering that Hitman is all about stealth, and Hitman, they decided to go, let's make a generic Luc Besson action film and then just throw him in that, because that's how he's going to be able to prevail and be brilliant. When in fact you just want to go, shut up.
Okay, on to this week's first DVD Blu-ray release we're going through, which is American Ultra. It's directed by Nima Nourizadeh, which I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right or not, but it is written by Max Landis. Now it's a film that is very odd to set up. You have the main character played by Jesse Eisenberg, who is basically this kind of low-end stoner who he's sort of a functioning stoner. He lives in this little quirky sort of American town that's very disconnected from everything. He just works in a little kind of like a Walmart sort of thing there. Everything is sort of going just typical for him after he's tried to go away with his girlfriend, played by Kristen Stewart, to somewhere on holiday, but has panic attacks whenever he tries to leave, so has to go back. He's in his store there working one night. A woman comes into the store, buys something and says something rapidly to him, which kind of triggers something in him, but obviously he's a bit of a stoner, so his mind is a little bit messed up, shall we say. Later on, a couple of guys are doing things with his car. He walks over to them, so stop doing that. They come over to him. Next thing you know, things have gone down. Here's a clip.
Hey babes, what's up?
Hey, I just killed two people. Two gentlemen.
That's awesome.
Why? No, these two guys were trying to break into my car at work, and they had guns and knives, and they were being total dicks, and they just attacked me.
Babe, you got mugged?
And then I took a spoon and I just I shoved it through this guy.
Did you call the police?
No, I didn't call the police because I'm the kill guy. I'm the murderer, okay? I also have a lot of weed and mushrooms in my car, and I just killed two dudes in a parking lot, okay? And Phoebe, if you don't come here right now, I'm just gonna start my pants. I swear to God, Phoebe, I'm just gonna start
How the did this happen?
I shot those guys in the head, and that guy I spooned him in the neck, and his just ended.
Why are people trying to stab you?
I don't know. Shh. I don't know, but I'm freaking out all over the place, babe. I have a lot of anxiety about this.
Get your hands in the air.
So, this is a film that you have that weird setup and this kind of weird sort of style of humour and everything thrown into the mix, and it's that kind of thing that it's one of those kind of cult films. It could be something along those lines. I'm trying to think of an example, but I just can't think of ones like it. But there are, that kind of a stupid, actiony but comic-y, jokey sort of thing. And this wants to be that so hard that it just completely fails and falls over, and it's just a horrible mess of bad timings and badly miscalculated ideas and terribly thought out, and I mean that as in really badly thought out, implementation of things, and the way that stuff is done in the film, shot, and the action is just not even exciting. And you have this whole thing of, you have Topher Grace in there, who is playing this CIA guy who is just really hamming it up in the whole bad guy who, oh no, it's scary, don't do this, and then, oh come on, and honestly, you just want to slap him about because he's such a annoying twerp, and it's just so misjudged. And it's not even as if it's misjudged that the jokes are really bad taste or terrible. The jokes are just poorly done. They're just not funny. You have this whole thing of these, they're on the run in this little town from people that are trying to kill them, and Jesse Eisenberg's character is kind of like a programmed assassin, and there could be so many things you could do with that would be hysterical and brilliant, and instead you just have Jesse Eisenberg sitting there moping for half an hour until someone tries to attack him, and then you have a little kind of very choreographed martial arts fight and weird things and people being shot in interesting ways. There is one interesting gunshot in there which is in the trailer, and you're just kind of sitting there going, why is this so flat? It's a mess.
I can answer that, why it's so flat, because the guy who directed it did Project X. That's why it's so flat. Because he thought that the humor in Project X was funny, when in fact it was just beyond moronic. And so he thought by adding an action movie on top of what he created with Project X, he is going to be able to create comedy gold. When in fact the only thing that saves the film is John Leguizamo. Because he
when did that ever become a realistic thing? John Leguizamo's saving a film.
Yeah, John Leguizamo saving something. I can't even remember the
last
time John Leguizamo saved a film.
I mean, he's actually, his career, he could do with saving that, to be honest. But
yeah, I think the last brilliant film John Leguizamo did, or cult movie did, was Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. And that was donkeys ago with Wesley Snipes.
That was in the 90s, yeah.
His career's gone down the pan. But yeah, it's just when that is proof. When somebody like Leguizamo is the thing that saves your movie, then you definitely know you've got problems, because his character is silly and stupid, but at least he's got a bit of humour behind him. And like Andrew said, he doesn't whine a lot like Jesse Eisenberg. And then Kristen Stewart, she was building up a career. She was doing really well for herself with Still Alice and The Clouds of Sils Maria and Camp X-Ray, which we finally get over here in a few weeks' time. But then she decides to do something silly like this and go, oh, I can show my quirky side. Leave your quirky side alone. Just leave it. Step away from the quirky side. Come towards the drama side. That's where you do really well. And Jesse Eisenberg should be ashamed of himself. I think he just wanted to be in an action movie, to be honest.
I mean, the thing is, I get the sense that this is a film that was written and scripted, and they kept to the script, and yet it's the kind of film that you always get these films made, and you know when they come out, well, that might be scripted, but there's no way that was scripted. That had to be improvised, but that was funny. And a lot of the time you have films like the Kevin Hart films that are probably scripted and he's not funny and it doesn't come out. I feel as if they should have just basically gone with the script and then gone, throw out the script, keep the basic story, and just have fun with it and make jokes and do things like that. And it would have been better than what we got on the screen.
Well, the sad news is we're getting a Project Double X, because that is out in, I think, August. I left it off the list a little bit earlier on, but yep, there is a sequel to Project X.
Dear
I know, and not the good Matthew Broderick Project X movie about monkeys. It's that really bad party movie that came out a couple of years ago. On to Love and Mercy then. So we change complete tact, and instead of going to moronic comedy, we go to drama, and it's actually centres around the Beach Boys, and in particular Brian Wilson, who was supposedly the leader of the Beach Boys. It's directed by Bill Pollard, and it stars both John Cusack and Paul Dano, who play both Brian Wilson at different times in his life. And so in the 1960s you got Paul Dano's character, where he is with the group of the Beach Boys, being run by his father, them coming up with the hit songs that they did come up with. But that's when trouble starts to occur with Wilson, when he starts to get tinnitus, and then it goes worse. He starts to hear voices in his head, and he starts to lose the plot a little bit. A bit like me and my coffee throat, as I always do.
It's me as well.
And then in the 1980s, you've got him played by John Cusack, who has supposedly gone through all the turmoil, but it's still there when he's not even helped out by his own doctor, played by Paul Giamatti, when all he wants is some kind of relationship. And he meets up with a woman who works in a car showroom, played by Elizabeth Banks, and establishes a relationship there, but he's stifled by Giamatti's character. And it's sort of like it mirrors both sides. In the 60s he was stifled by his own father, And in the 80s, he's stifled by somebody who's trying to be like his father. And so here's a clip that gives you a feel of what the movie's like when he's at his best in the 1960s.
Remember, it's the higher octave on the upbeats in the bridge.
Hey, Brian.
I love that.
Brian.
Yeah.
I think you might have screwed up here.
Really? Let me see.
Well, you've got Lyle playing in D, and the rest of us are in A major.
Yeah, that's right.
How does that work? 2 bass lines and 2 different keys?
Well, it works in my head. It's all playing in my head, the orchestration and the 5 vocal parts. And I think it's gonna work. Let's try it. Oh, Hal, here's how I want you to do it. It goes, boom, 2, 3, 4, ba-doom. So it's the first beat on the last bar of the intro. Boom, 2, 3, 4, ba-doom.
And so normally with these kind of musical biopics in a way, this is sort of like taking biopic at a loose kind of thread. It's more of a drama that centers around somebody who was involved in the music industry and the Beach Boys, who sort of like saw what the Beatles were doing but always knew that they were second best, even though they tried their hardest to be sort of like different, more quirkier than the Beatles. And to be honest, I actually prefer the Beach Boys over the Beatles. But that's another different kind of worm that I should leave on my shelf and never open. But yeah, you always think that these kind of movies might be sort of like brought down. However, you've got an outstanding performance by Paul Dano. If I watched this film when it originally came out in the UK, which was July in last year, 2015, I would have easily included Paul Dano in my Best Actor nomination list, because he is this is the best performance he's ever done in a film. He is just outstanding. He's got the mannerisms of everything just absolutely locked down. He's got a really good voice, but the way he plays off his character, it's the sort of like simplistic way. You know that something's wrong with him, but he never overdoes it. John Cusack handles it really well, but when you've got a strong performance from Dano, you're always going to struggle to go up alongside him, and so he's definitely second best on this front, considering that you might have thought it would have been the other way around. It's John Cusack which comes off the second best. Paul Giamatti is annoying. He's really annoying in the film. You just want to smack him or push him off the boat when he has an argument with Brian Wilson, when he's just there with Elizabeth Banks' character all over a hamburger. He snaps at little tiny things, and that's exactly what his father was like in the 1960s. Elizabeth Banks is really good in the movie, and so the film itself is fantastic. It's very well created, very well made. You never feel like you're watching a movie biopic, even though it is one of those kind of movies. The best kind of movies that fit a genre are the movies that you don't feel actually belong to that genre. So, for example, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It is all about spying, supposedly, but you never feel like the movie is about spying. Whereas Love and Mercy, it's all supposedly about Brian Wilson, but you never feel it's like a biopic. I know this might sound like a negativity against the film itself, but considering I actually quite like the film, when I was watching it, it reminded me of watching That Thing You Do. And it's a Tom Hanks film that a lot of people forget, but I actually really like That Thing You Do. I thought it was a really good, happy movie, but had serious elements to it. That's what Love and Mercy feels like. It's definitely got that serious undertone to it, but because the way the movie's played out and the way it's acted, it elevates itself high above a lot of these movies that are very similar to it. So I definitely suggest you watch it. You don't even need to be a Beach Boys fan to enjoy it, because I'm not that much of a fan of them, yet you do still find yourself tapping your toe a little bit along to some of their songs. You go, oh yeah, they did that. You recognise some of the music as well, but it's just the acting that needs to be congratulated for this film, and directing wise.
Okay, so we come to The Cobbler, which is written and directed by Tom McCarthy. It stars Adam Sandler as the title character of the Cobbler, who is, for anyone who doesn't know what a cobbler is, someone who fixes shoes for a living. He is working in this shop that he has, that he basically inherited from his father. It is an old shop which is sort of in this little kind of rundown area of I think it's New York, but I'm not sure actually. And it's all sort of focusing around the whole fact of that he's in this dreary kind of existence. He's tired of this. It's not his sort of interest and profession. It was his father's, so it was ended up being his as well. One day his machine that he uses, his sewing machine, breaks. So he has to use an old machine that he has in the cellar, which, as it turns out, has a really strange, a magical effect of the shoes. Of that, if you put on the shoes of that you've repaired, that you've fixed with this machine, then you look like and sound like the owner of the shoes. So you could effectively take the shoes of anyone, do them up with this machine, and put them on, and you could then look and walk around and pretend to be that person. You have this whole thing of that it's about this whole thing of, you know, that literally starts off telling you with a kind of flashback sequence at the start with a young boy playing the young Adam Sandler character and his father telling him this Jewish story about the whole thing of, you know, walking a mile in another man's shoes to understand his predicaments. So of course he finds himself with this machine and sort of decides, you know, starts thinking out, you know, all the things he can do, starts to question sort of, you know, the possibilities of this, and speaks to his mother, sort of asking the idea of sort of, you know, what kind of things would you do with it, without obviously saying exactly what it is. Here's a clip.
How was your day, Maxie?
It was good. It was really good. It was the best day I've had in a long time.
Good. You work so hard.
How was your day, Ma?
Better now that my Tatalo's home.
Yeah. Hey, Ma, let me ask you something. You ever wish you were somebody else?
I'm your mother. That's all I ever wanted to be.
But if you could do whatever you wanted to do, what would it be?
Have dinner with your father. That would be nice.
That would be really nice.
So here's the thing with the Cobbler. Okay, you and Stuart from Page to Screen have very, very differing opinions of the film. Yeah, exactly. It's not like North Pole and South Pole. Yeah, well, that doesn't really matter as to which point, but you really, really are set against it. He really, really loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm in the middle, edging towards liking it.
I hate you for that.
Yeah, I thought you might. Let me explain the reason why. Here's the thing with this. I watched it and I realised, and I was watching it and I'm thinking, because there is this sequence early on, as soon as he figures out that, it's everyone has talked about this as well, the fact of that there's a scene where there's a woman that lives in one of the apartments nearby, and she brings in her boyfriend's shoes, and he looks at them and he really, really fancies her, so he decides he's going to fix his shoes and then pretend to be him and goes into their apartment. She's in the shower and he decides he's going to try and have sex with her, and the whole thing of then he then realizes and has this, and you'd think it would be kind of a moral dilemma, but it's not a moral dilemma. It's a logistic dilemma where he gets to the point of thinking, well, hang on a minute, I can't do this because if I have to get undressed to have sex, I have to take off the shoes so I can take off the trousers, and then realises, I can't do this, and leaves. And that is definitely a moment that it's a very, very dark and twisted and quite sickening idea. But the thing is that it's actually a moment, I thought, that did make a point of that, you know, you get people that would get something like that, and it's the whole thing of the responsibility of having a power like that and abusing it, and, you know, doing the good thing or the bad thing with it. And that is the thing of precisely the point that after that I then realised what it's not doing is, and what Sandler isn't doing, this isn't an Adam Sandler comedy. it is a film which has comedic elements to it, with the whole thing of the magic of the shoes that you put on, you can look like anyone else. But it's not actually a comedy. It is a drama. It is Adam Sandler trying to get back to being a lot more like in the role he was in Punch Drunk Love. He's not playing this as a comedy film. He's playing it as a drama, and for that fact is the reason why I like it more than loathe it, because there's at no point is there humour in it which is, you know, Hangover gross out humour, Judd Apatow gross out humour. There is no point in the film apart from there is a great gag in it to do with a person who's dead whose shoes are there, and it's actually a great physical gag. I burst out laughing at that, and it's not a comedy, but it's a comedy moment. You have films that are dramas with comedy, and you have films that are comedies with drama. This is a drama for me with comedy. And it's not brilliant. It has its problems that it is extremely predictable as the film goes along. There is a whole load of stuff in it which didn't need to be in there, and it's not a long film. It's an hour and a half long, and it could have probably been 15 minutes longer and it would have been a better film. So 15 minutes shorter, it would have been a better film. It has problems with the ending especially, and the whole thing of how it ends and where that leads, and you kind of go, it has a couple of WTF moments, and you just sit there going, wait, what? Even though I saw it coming a mile off, it then goes way out there from that point onwards, and I was just like, oh, what? Okay. And that I hated. But I think the problem is with this is that it's Adam Sandler doing a drama, and everyone, he's got that baggage now of, fair enough, he has done a lot of bad films recently, but they've all been bad comedies, and he's not trying to do a comedy here, and people have brought this to that, they've brought that baggage of comedies to viewing the film with this, I think, and that is why I think that it is getting such a bad rap. It has its problems. It's not particularly well written at times. It's not particularly, especially well directed at any times. It has this whole thing of it's essentially the storyline of his Don't Mess with the Zohan, which was actually a funny comedy. But it's taking that and just kind of taking the drama elements of it and leaving the comedy there and just doing a weirdness with it. And I have to say, I didn't love it, but I was sitting there thinking, this is a film that everyone's absolutely slating and hating, and I was sitting there thinking, why? It must be just the Adam Sandler baggage that comes with it, with him. I don't think it deserves to be called, I don't think it deserves to be amongst the worst films of the year, because there is a lot more out there that is a lot worse, and it's not deserving of that. I think it's a perfectly fine film. It's not brilliant, it's not bad, it's just average.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to talk about it, because if I do, I'll end up completely... I think out of any movie that we've reviewed over the last year, in total, that's not doing... Obviously, we've just started a new year in 2016, but in the last 12 months, we couldn't be any more opposite of each other. Because honestly, I couldn't find anything I liked about this film at all. But there is just one. I'm going to read this line from a review from the Village Voice of the film itself, which explains my thoughts exactly on the film, rather than me rant on, which I could do. And all it says is, the Cobbler has invented a new category of terrible, cruel schmaltz. And I'll just leave it at that, because that's exactly what the film is. It's cruel schmaltz.
I don't think it's cruel schmaltz. I think it's predictable schmaltz.
No, it's cruel schmaltz, and that's it. I'll go on to the Vatican tapes, which is directed by Mark Neveldine. Now, you might recognise the name. Mark Neveldine teamed up with Neveldine and Taylor. So they are the ones who did the Crown series and Gamer. And so what they've decided to do is they've split off now. They're no longer a directing duo. They're now doing their own movies. And so Mark Neveldine, his first solo project is the Vatican tapes. Now, it was thrown into cinemas in the UK on about 10 screens, and then that's pretty much it. It was lost. And you can probably guess the reason why. It stars Michael Pena, who plays a priest who needs to try and help out this woman, who's played by Olivia Taylor Dudley, who lives with her husband, played by Douglas Scott, and her kids. However, she starts to show some signs of something really wrong with her. Well, when people are around her, bad things happen to them. which starts to alert the Vatican, and then during an investigation, specifically watching a videotape, they realise the ultimate evil might be trying to appear on Earth. Here's a clip.
Here is the case I told you about. A local priest has witnessed several incidents involving this girl.
I was fine before I saw the doctors. This place is making me sick. I'm not staying here.
Okay. Angela, you were in a car accident. Do you remember that? I want to go home. I want to go home. Angela?
Go home. I want to 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 go home!
Did you see that? What are we looking
for? Making me sick. I'm not staying here.
The Antichrist.
Angela?
Go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. Angela. I want to go.
Get all of the hospital tapes. Get everything.
Does he talk all the way through? He's like, dude, this is very, very quiet whiskey. I want to be Mickey Rourke.
No,
I want to
be. That's the head guy at the Vatican. He's only in briefly in the film.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, in that clip there, you'll not heard him speak, but he's in the film more so often than the head of the Vatican. You've got Jermaine Hewson, who's in the movie, which is a very strange piece of casting. But the thing with the Vatican tapes is this would make a particularly brilliant, and in this case terrible, double bill with The Devil Inside. Now, The Devil Inside is an awful, awful movie, just not because of the fact that the film itself is not scary at all, but because it's total poppycock, and also it has the worst ending I've seen in a film ever. It just flashes up at the end of that film is a website. So it doesn't even have an ending. Now this would actually, at least this film has an ending, but pretty much everything that's sandwiched in between it is still absolute poppycock. Because it's just terribly handled. It's just really, really badly handled. I think they've watched things like The Exorcist too many times and go, we can do that. Let's bring technology into it as well. And let's get some ideas from Paranormal Activity movies and stuff like that, and then we can make a pretty scary movie, and we can make a woman who can walk like a spider and do a really weird voice and scream a lot, and then there's a lot of dramaticness there, and she's possessed, and yeah, it's gonna sell, it's brilliant. When in fact the people who are watching it are going, oh, another one of these. This is exactly what it is. It's another one of those movies. Now Mark Neveldine, when he's with Taylor, they're frenetic, those two together. They make insane movies. Even if you look at Gamer, for example, it's not a very good film, but at least it has some fun elements to it. It's just this. He seems to lost any kind of fun, any freneticness. I think he should have just made it a screwball comedy, to be honest, because I was laughing at the end of it rather than being scared. It's bad.
Okay, the last film of the evening is The Runner, which is written and directed by Austin Stark. It stars Nicolas Cage as a politician in Louisiana. He is basically dealing with sort of the aftermath of the whole thing of the BP oil spill in 2010. He gives this sort of rousing speech to the investigation sort of meeting that there is held into this about the whole thing of how the oil leak has affected the local people and their jobs and their careers and that their lives and things like that. That starts to sort of get him traction in the press, and everything seems to be looking great for him and his wife, played by Connie Nielsen. Everything is all looking good for them, except for the fact then his career and his personal life is essentially turned upside down and destroyed by a sexual scandal with him and another woman. Cut to sometime later, and he is looking to, after having been on a bit of a drinking binge, try and see about sorting out his life and getting his life together and back on track. He has been sort of separated from his wife. He is sort of looking to get the advice of some people, in particular his PR agent, his PR sort of consultant, played by Sarah Paulson, who he has not seen for some time, and agrees to sort of and meets up with her for a drink. Here's a clip.
Louisiana needs the oil industry, and the oil industry needs Louisiana. That was true 100 years ago, and it will be true in another 100 years. The spill was a tragedy, but it is in everyone's best interest to keep American oil healthy.
My husband isn't doubting how reliant our local economy is on industry.
My fund runs a diversified energy portfolio with an emphasis on Gulf producers. And I know you've leaned left on energy in the past, but I'm looking to back a horse that will support our interests.
And you can find a lot of politicians around here in the party whose interests align with yours. Why me?
You're a winner. People are talking about you, Congressman, even in my world.
Well, then you should know I don't pander to campaign finances.
That's actually the wrong clip I meant to play, but it's an example of what the film is about, is because that's before all of the whole thing of the scandal and all, and after he's trying to get his life back on track, there's this whole thing of that he's then having to question his own sort of moral things of whether or not he is willing to kind of go in with the whole thing of the oil companies and actually kind of work with them to try and kind of get his status and get his importance back up to where it was before. It is one of these sort of redemption dramas of someone who questioning, their worth and dealing with their life in the aftermath of, a self-destructive situation such as a sexual scandal. And it's actually a fairly decent sort of performance from Nicolas Cage here and everyone else involved. It's a passable watch. It's not a great film, but it's not a bad film. You're watching it and you're kind of going, there's a few twists and turns, and I thought it was a passable hour and a half's watch that I have definitely sat and watched a lot worse films in an hour and a half, and The Cobbler is not one of them. This was on par with sort of The Cobbler as a decent watch that has its fair share of problems, but at the end of it you go, you know what, that wasn't too bad. Okay. No comments? Nope. Because I mentioned The Cobbler?
I just don't want to go off on an angry rant. I'm not in the mood for one now.
Okay. TV movies of the week. I've only got one, so
Same here.
You got, is it I would have got the same one then probably.
Maybe.
Yeah. On Wednesday the 6th. No. Okay, mine's Wednesday the 6th, 11:10 p.m. I know it's one you like as well, on Film 4, End of Watch, which is the one about the cops and the whole thing of it. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena again. Yep. Who we've said in the Vatican Diaries, and also we talked earlier, is in Ant-Man as well, Man of the Week.
Good for him.
Yep.
And for me, it's on Film 4, Saturday the 9th at 11:15, Dog Soldiers. It's just a bit of a weak week. So,
it is. I mean, there's actually there is pretty much a decent film on every night, but there's nothing you kind of go, oh, that's on. It's like it's the kind of thing you can be channel hopping and go, nah. You go into Film 4 and you go, I'll watch that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a come down after all the films that were shown over Christmas.
Yeah.
So they're looking at going, why not? We'll just put that on instead. So yeah, definitely watch Dog Soldiers is on a perfect time as well, and on a perfect night, Saturday night at 11:15. You've got your mates, have a few mates around, have some beers or whatever, order a few pizzas, something like that, and just watch a really well created werewolf movie where the special effects are still pretty impressive. They're
practical, all practical as well.
Very up there with very much like American Werewolf in London, because you can watch that today and it's still highly impressive, the practical effects in that film. The same goes for Dog Soldiers. If you look at a CGI movie like Howl that was released last year, where the werewolves were really badly created, even though I like the director, the werewolves in that movie are badly done, could have took a leaf out of the book of Neil Marshall, who he worked with as well on Dog Soldiers. So that gives you an indication that guy hasn't come very far. He did the Season in House though, but the Season in House is really good. But Dog Soldiers, film 4, Saturday the 9th, 11:15, tangent over.
So we could get a rant out of you on the Cobbler, but we got a rant out of you on Dog Soldier instead.
Tangent over, I like it.
Thank you for listening to our first show of 2016. We got through it. Just a few shout outs as usual. You can find us as usual on our website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Stuart's on there at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDVD. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ Monday Movie Show. Almost made it all the way through without a tongue twist as well. Almost. No.
But at least you made it through without forgetting an actor/actress/director's name.
Did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And also a couple shouts out as we usually do to followingthenerd.com and from page 2, the number 2 screen.com, where I think has there been any shows done from page to screen this year, or are they to be done yet?
There was supposed to have been one done yesterday, but we were supposed to be speaking to the director about an upcoming horror film, but that's been pushed back because he wasn't feeling very well. But one thing I will point out is keep your ears and eyes open for something different coming, because I will be starting something different.
Oh, yeah, I know what that
soon.
is. Yeah. So that's it for this week's show. We're going to play out as usual with a clip of an upcoming film. Next week we have one big film in the cinema release. There are a couple other small ones, but I don't know if we'll be able to go through them or not. It depends if we can see them or not. If they are given a widespread release, I really doubt it at the moment, given what is currently out. And next week coming out is Quentin Tarantino's latest movie, The Hateful Eight. So we'll leave you with a clip to that. Next Monday's show, maybe on the Monday, we will let you know on the website. Until then, bye-bye.
Different.
I see you ain't got mixed emotions about bringing a woman to a rope.
By woman, you mean her? No, I do not have mixed emotions.
So you taking in the Red Rock to have?
You bet.
You gonna wait around and watch it?
Oh, you know I am. I want to hear her neck snap with my own 2 ears. You never wait to watch them hang?
My bounties never hang, because I never bring them in alive.
Never?
Never, ever. We talked about this in Chattanooga. Bringing desperate men in alive is a good way to get yourself dead.
You can't catch me sleeping if I don't close my eyes.
I don't want to work that hard.
No one said the job's supposed to be easy.
No one said it's supposed to be that hard, neither. It's that little lady. That's why they call him the hangman. When the handbill says dead or alive, the rest of us shoot you in the back up on top of a perch somewhere and bring you in dead over a saddle. But when John Roof, the hangman, catches you, you don't die from no bullet in the back. When the hangman catches you, you hang.